بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you. Welcome to the episode titled as Halal should be sufficient from haram. What is the word halal and what is the word haram? Halal, well, I realize that most Westerners, if not all, they know the meaning of the word halal. Halal means tasty food, good food, food which had been slayed lawfully according to the Islamic Sharia, Islamic law. People are interested in it. They like it. But it's not the only halal. There's another problem. How did we buy this halal food? Is the money that we are keeping in our pocket is also halal? People think about halal food, but also halal money. What about halal money? Haram is the opposite of halal. Halal means lawful, and haram means unlawful. This is also important, because you're going to be asked on the Day of Judgment, how did you collect the money and how are you going to spend it? Not only how did he collect it, but also how will you be spending it? And you will not be taking another step at the Day of Judgment until you're going to be questioned about how did you collect the money and how did you spend it. The Prophet, peace be with him, used to be supplicating Allah, many kinds of supplications, but one of them, which is very interesting, he used to say, Allahumma kfina bihalalika an haramik wa aghnina bifadlika amman siwak. Which means, oh Allah, make the halal that you provided us be sufficient enough for us from seeking something which is haram, unlawful. وَأَغْنِنَا and suffice us by your favor from anyone else. Allahumma kfina bihalalika an haramik wa aghnina bifadlika amman siwak. It's a very beautiful supplication. Among the most dangerous things, when we find people competing in seeking lively objects, and taking things from this life without any means of checking or observing, how do we collect it? Is it halal? Do we collect from halal or from haram? There are many people who don't care about it. They don't bother investigating if this is halal or it's not. But the only concern they have is how to collect, that's all. You want to be rich. That's the utmost goal, is to be rich. Well, that's misguidance. I mean, how important is to in this time where we find these lively objects have been opened widely to people. They have a lot of trades. The Prophet ﷺ told us that there will be a time with people. Those people will not be caring about where do they get the money. Is it halal or haram? But the one who's so concerned, so serious in seeking to be with the Prophet ﷺ, he doesn't bother how to be rich. It is good. It is good to be rich. I'm not denying that we love to be rich, but how to be rich? If you can be rich in the good way, you can collect your money by the good means. Why not? But what you take today unlawfully, you have to pay it at the Day of Judgment. Don't think that you will not be asked. No. Let's see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the matter of halal. We find in the second chapter, Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُلُوا مِمَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. O mankind, eat from whatever is on earth that is lawful and good, and do not follow the footsteps of the devil. Indeed, he is to you a clear enemy. He only orders you, إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. He only orders you to evil and immorality, and to say about Allah what you do not know. In another verse, وَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. And eat of what Allah has provided for you, which is lawful and good, and fear Allah, in whom you are believers. In another verse, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ أَمْوَالَ الْيَتَامَى ظُلْمًا إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا وَسَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا. Let's see the translation. Indeed, those who devour the property of orphans unjustly are only consuming into their bellies fire, and they'll be burned in a blaze. That means in hellfire. Yeah, well, let's say, well, that's harsh, that's difficult, that's dangerous. They'll be blazed, they'll be burned. Yes, since they take the property of the orphans. You know, the orphan is a small child. He cannot say to you, where are you going with my money? He can't say that. So you're taking advantage of this. So you're going to be punished for that. Now, therefore, be careful. If the orphan has no one to observe and to maintain his money, that's going to be a problem for you if you misuse the property of an orphan. The Prophet ﷺ feared our richness, not our poverty. You know, to be rich, well, that raises a question. Being rich, is it a favor? Or the opposite of favor? A test, a trial, tribulation, a problem. Is it a problem to be rich? Or it's favor to be rich? Or in another word, testing the rich people, is it worst? Or testing other people by being poor is worst? Which is worst? Well, naturally people say, no, being poor is worst. Sometimes being poor is better. Especially if a person keeps thinking about how to live and how to how to enjoy this life while, spending money, enjoying my life. It causes people to turn away from Allah and the hereafter. I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying everybody's this. But this is a fact. Wait a minute. If you have one building, two buildings, you have big farms, and you hear about the day of judgment coming, oh, don't let it be now. I have my property. I want to enjoy my property. So, naturally, people will be thinking about how to live, how to stay in this life, because they have things that keep shackling them to this life rather than hoping Allah in the hereafter. Because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَمَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَمَا عِندَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. What have you been given